Hey guys, welcome back to another More of the Data Math Tutoring to Go. I'm one video. Today we're going to be doing our third video on types of transformations, but today we're going to be focusing specifically on dilations. So let's get into some specifics on what dilations are. Okay, so I've put an example up on the screen, but essentially what a dilation does is it changes the size of a shape. So it doesn't change the shape or the dimensions, but it changes the size by scaling it up or down by a certain scale factor. So what that means is it's changing the location or all of the different points on a shape. So if I want to scale something up, I can multiply it by each point by 2, for example. Or if I wanted to scale something down, I could multiply each point by 1/2, for example. So that's going to, like in this image, it's going to change the size of the shape, but not the shape itself. So let's get into some examples. So let's start off by looking at this example. So we see that we have this square on the graph that I've drawn here, and let's say that we want to scale it up by a factor of 2. So what we're going to start off by doing is writing down the current coordinates of our points. So what we can do for a square like this is just write down all of the vertices. So let's start with A. So it looks like A is at the point 1, 1. So we can write that down. So when we're scaling something up or down by a factor, we simply are going to multiply all of the coordinates in the point by that factor. So like I said, if we're scaling it up by a factor of 2, then I multiply each of these by 2. So 1 becomes 2 and 1 becomes 2. Pretty easy. Let's go on to B. So then it looks like B is at 2, 1. So let's write that down. That's 2, 1. And then if we multiply them both by 2, that becomes 4, 2. Now for C, it looks like it is at 2, 0. So I'd write down 2, 0, and that becomes 4, 0 when I multiply them both by 2. Okay, now finally D, it looks like that's at 1, 0. So I'll write that down, 1, 0, and that becomes 2, 0 when I multiply them both by 2. So now let's see what that would look like when we scale it up. So like I said in one of the previous videos, after we complete a transformation, all of our new points are going to have this little apostrophe after each of the letters. So we're going to say that like A prime. So our new shape is going to have the point A prime. So let's try graphing that. So we figured out that that was at 2, 2. So we'll graph that right here. And then we said that B prime is at 4, 2. So that's going to be here. And then C prime is at 4, 0. So right here. And D prime is at 2, 0. Okay, so then we can connect all of those shapes, or all of those points, I apologize. And we know that we have over here A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. So this is going to be our previous shape, but scaled up by a factor of 2. So now let's practice scaling something down. So for this example, we're going to be doing a very similar process, but we're going to be scaling it down, like I said. And we're going to be scaling it down by a factor of 1/2 for this example. And you can do this with any fraction, any number, but for this video, we're just keeping it pretty simple with pretty simple numbers. Okay, so let's look at what we're starting with. So we're starting with this very simple triangle. So on our pre-image for point A, we can see that it's at 2, 4. So let's write that down, 2, 4. And then we know that if we're scaling it down by a scale factor of 1/2, then it's going to become 1, 2, because we're dividing each coordinate by 2. Okay, then our point B on the pre-image is at 4, 1, 4, 1. So if we're dividing both of those by 2, that's going to become 2, 1/2. Okay, so then our final point C is at 2, 1. So then if we're scaling that one down, that's going to become at 1, 1/2. So that it's completely scaled down. So for this one, we're going to try to graph this on the same graph as the pre-image, just so you can see them side by side. So we'll do it in different colors so it's not as confusing. Okay, so for A prime, we said that it's at 1, 2. Let's do that right here. A prime. And then B prime, we said is at 2, 1/2. So probably about here. That's B prime. And then C prime, we said is at 1, 1/2. So about here. That's C prime. Okay, so then we can connect those dots. Oh. And although the shape is a little bit rough, you can see that that is about 1/2 the size of the pre-image. So we've scaled it down by 1/2. Thank you guys so much for watching our third video on transformations. Be on the lookout for our fourth and final video on transformations, which is going to be discussing rotations specifically. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and please stay tuned for more IM1 Math Tutoring to Go Muafa Data videos. Bye!